Hi, and welcome to this short tutorial on writing essays, part of the European Studies Writing Database. An essay is a short text in which a writer provides some information and usually an opinion on an issue. You've probably already written a lot of essays in your academic career, but we're going to review a couple of things in this video anyway, just in case. Usually as a student, you write essays either on exams or as separate assignments. Sometimes you're given a topic or a question to answer, and sometimes you have the freedom to choose your own topic. No matter what type of assignment you're doing, essays are all about doing exactly one thing, and that's making a short argument to convince readers of something. You either try to convince them of the answer to a question, or you try to convince them of a point of view. The trick to essay writing is to get to the point as soon as you possibly can. And you do that by doing what you always do when you write something, and that's make a plan first. And in that plan, you determine, what is my main point? What do I want to convince readers of? What's the answer to the question? Or what statement do I want other people to agree with? You come up with a statement that we call a thesis. A thesis statement is a short sentence that summarizes your main point. And this is a statement that should be clear, and it should take a position on an issue that can be argued on either side. It should answer whatever question you've been given, if you've been given a question, or take a stand on an issue. For example, you might be asked, what were the causes of World War I? And you could write an essay saying, World War I was caused by nationalism and militarism. If that's your answer to the question, you're going to have to prove it step by establishing that nationalism was a factor and that militarism was a factor. You could also write, citizens should or should not be allowed to purchase or own guns. This is a strong statement on an issue. It might not have come from a question. It might have come from an essay where you get to choose your own topic. But it's a clear statement, and somebody could argue it from either side, just like somebody could argue that World War I had different causes. Use of mobile phones should or should not be forbidden inside schools. Another statement somebody could take a position on. That's what a thesis statement looks like. If you don't take my word for it, listen to Lisa Simpson. She'll tell you it's always one sentence. It's always a statement, and it's never a question. It identifies the subject of the paper, and it takes a stand. It doesn't just announce a subject, it takes a position. Once you know what your main point is, what you want to argue, you need to figure out how to back it up. You need to do this before you start writing. Otherwise, you're just going to write a bunch of random stuff. So you take what you want to say, and you try to think of reasons or evidence or examples that will support your main point. It's a good idea to try to have at least 3 for a good essay. Let's say, for example, I want to write an essay arguing that the drinking age should be raised to 21. I got to think of reasons for it, and I can do that using an argument map like this, where I can sort of visualize my argument. I can say the drinking age should be raised because I come up with one reason: alcohol is especially unhealthy for young people, and because reducing teen drinking will prevent automobile accidents. Now I know what I need to know in order to start planning and writing my essay. Once you know what you want to say and how you're going to argue it, the hard part's over. All you got to do is make a little outline, and then you can start writing. Essays follow a set structure like everything else you write, and the structure should be familiar to you by now. Essays always have an introduction that gets the reader's attention, introduces the topic, and ends with that thesis statement, the main point. That's why it's a triangle in this diagram. It ends in the main point. You follow the intro with body paragraphs that support your thesis step by step, each one beginning with a clear topic sentence that says what the paragraph's about. So you've made a main point that the drinking age should be raised. That first body paragraph would probably start with a topic sentence like, one reason the drinking age should be raised is ... State your case, explain it, provide an example, and then move on to the next reason. After that, you end with a conclusion that links back to the main point and reflects on the topic or its importance in general. That's how most conclusions work. Going back to our example about raising the drinking age, if you wanted to write that essay, you'd probably start your essay by getting attention. I don't know, maybe you'd mention some dramatic statistics about drunk driving or the health risks involved, and you would end with that main point: the drinking age must be raised. And you'd follow that by providing 2 to 3 reasons, and you'd spend more or less 1 paragraph on each reason. Your paragraphs would probably look like this. One reason the drinking age should be raised is because it hurts academic performance. You would then have to explain that statement and provide an example, some backup, some evidence from research, some quotes from media articles, anything that will help you prove this point. The next paragraph might start with, another reason the drinking age should be raised is because it can lead to auto accidents, especially for young people. This is a clear topic sentence. You would follow that up with an explanation and an example, and eventually you would conclude and reflect on the whole discussion. Probably saying something like, taking into account reasons 1, 2, 3, there should be no doubt that the drinking age must be raised, and soon, because this is a public health issue that affects millions of people. Some kind of general reflection on why the topic matters. Once you've got it planned out, you're ready to sit down and start writing. While you're writing, please remember that you should stick to the style that we've given you. That means use proper formatting, 1.5 line spacing, and justification of the text, among other things. It also means that you should, familiarize yourself with how Microsoft Word works and let it do some of the work for you. If you see our tutorial on formatting assignments for European Studies, you'll find a lot of useful tips about how to do just that. In an essay, you also want to stick to formal style. That means you don't write I or we or you. And this is kind of hard to adjust to because in an essay, you are essentially arguing your opinion about something. But you have to argue it without being too opinionated or too personal. You have to take a step back and write neutrally. So you can't write, I think this, or I conclude that. You can write, it can be concluded that, ... You also can't use contractions like can't, you have to say cannot, or any type of informal terminology. Little extra tip for while you're writing, set the language preferences before you start, and then spell check. This will help you to be consistent with your language. We don't really care if you use British English or American English, but we do think you should be consistent. So set the one that you need, and then make sure you spell check consistently. Now, there's a very good chance that in your essay, you're going to want to use information that you found through research. Statistics or quotes or expert opinions, facts or figures that are going to help you prove your point. If you're going to do that, you need to remember that there are 3 things you always have to do whenever you want to use text or ideas that come from a source besides the inside of your head. The first of these 3 special steps is to use a signal phrase. That means you say something like, according to, or as stated in, a recent study found that. Any type of phrase that warns the reader that you're about to use information that came from somewhere else. This is called attribution. You attribute the information to the source. Journalists do the same thing in their writing. They always say, according to Bob Smith, who was there, and they give you the information, but they make it clear where it came from. The second of the 3 special steps is to use a clear quotation or a close paraphrase of the information you're using. Quotes are better because they're more precise. A quote is when you use the exact words of what the source said and you put it in quotation marks. Like this example here, according to the New York Times, Sarah Palin said, quote, I can see Russia from my house, end quote. A paraphrase is a close summary of the original in your own words. You might see someone say, as mentioned in the New York Times, Sarah Palin can see Russia from her house. It's similar, but a little bit different. Whether you're quoting or paraphrasing, you definitely need the third step, a citation. And that's when you put a bracket at the end of the sentence after the quote or paraphrase that gives us some basic information about where the quote or paraphrase came from. Usually it's the last name of the author, the date, and the page or the paragraph. If you don't know the author, or if it's a news article on a site like NOS or BBC and it doesn't mention the author, then use the title, the date, and the page, or the title, the date, and the paragraph. You see examples here, Smith, 2013, page 6, so on and so forth. The rules for APA style, they're kind of different for each of the different types of sources that are out there, but a lot of the rules are just details and they're easy to look up. You don't have to remember everything, but you do need to remember the 3 special steps. And you want to make sure that you include everything in your list of references at the end of your paper. So here's a couple of quick examples of citations in APA style, which is the system of rules that includes the 3 special steps. You might say, according to author Bob Smith, quote, APA style is easy to use, end quote, Smith 2011, page 12. You could also put, according to Smith, APA style is not difficult. This is a paraphrase. Smith, 2011, page 12. You could also flip it around and say, as author Bob Smith, 2011, said, quote, APA style is easy to use, end quote, page 12. There are lots of different ways of doing it. It's nice to use variety. But however you do it, please note that the punctuation, the full stop or the comma, has to come at the end of the citation, not at the end of the quote. As I mentioned a second ago, you're going to need to add any sources you use for an essay to a list of references at the end. This is usually a list in alphabetical order, either by author or by title. If you want some tips on what that list should look like, then you should see our formatting tutorials and our APA style tutorials for all the details. And be aware that you can let Microsoft Word do quite a lot of the work. So that's basically it. That's all there is to say about writing essays for now. By all means, if you want to be a good writer, you should consult some of the other trainings in our writing database. They will also help you with your essay writing. In particular, the aforementioned tutorials on assignment formatting and APA style. There are dozens of useful guides out there that will also help you. I'd like to recommend in particular the Online Writing Lab, or OWL, at Purdue University, which is a free online resource that anyone can use. In general, you'll find the internet is a pretty good teacher, so if you do some Googling or go on YouTube, you'll find a lot of great tips about how to write a good essay. If after all of that you get a little desperate, you need a little help, feel free to contact me. I'm Dave Van Ginhoven, and you can reach me at d.vanginhoven@hhs.nl. That's the end of this short tutorial. Thanks a lot for watching, and I wish you the best of luck with whatever you're working on. I hope to see you soon.